Hey folks, this is Matt. Today we're going to take a little look at the civic virtue of perseverance, which is under the broad umbrella of work. This is our second essay. Hopefully you watched the work video I made and the work PowerPoint, and you are comfortable with this general concept. If you looked at the industriousness videos and PowerPoints, you might see some overlap between them. They're related, obviously. With both of these concepts, perseverance and industriousness, maybe the idea, and kind of along with the broad idea of work, is that we value things if we have to work for it. If something is handed to us, we don't value it. If we work for something, we can take pride in it, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of earning it. And that often shows up in industriousness when we work on a project and we're like, hey, I did this, whether it's work or school or whatever, sports. Perseverance can have the same thing. Sometimes we might associate perseverance with difficulties, okay? And that's not necessarily an odd idea. It's not the absolute, though. So let's take a look at this. So to persevere, here's a dictionary definition, is a virtue of persistence in doing something despite difficulties or delays. So what I talked about was, sometimes we think about obstacles we have and we have to persevere through them. The actual root of the word perseverance comes from the Latin words for cutting through. So per at the beginning of a word in Latin meant through, and to sever means to cut. Okay, so if you sever an artery, you're in bad shape because you've cut your artery, okay? But to cut through. So the idea from Latin is we encounter difficulties and we have to get through them. Go through them. Okay, you can't avoid them. So you might want to think about, how do most people learn this virtue? Maybe think about different tasks throughout your life that you learned through perseverance, whether it was, when you were an infant, perhaps, learning to walk, learning to speak, learning to use small utensils, okay, learning to feed yourself, riding a bike, tying our shoe. As we get older and older, we encounter more tasks that sometimes we have to learn how to get through it and work through it. And so maybe we might want to think about how sometimes the failures in our lives can be lessons in perseverance, okay? I bet every one of us can think about tasks that we can do now that we're pretty accomplished at. We might even be able to do it without even thinking about it. But you know what? We had failed at first. It was hard. And now we're I kept working at it. I cut through it and I got to it, okay? So here's some things to think about. You might want to think about in your essay and write about different examples from your own life that required real perseverance. These can be from your athletic life, academic life, health issues, could be relationship issues you've had with family or friends, could be a whole host of things, and how sometimes part of growing up and becoming a mature adult is getting through those times and having the stick-to-itiveness of that, okay? We might also look back at some occurrences from our lives and think, I wish I had persevered through that. Maybe I shouldn't have quit that, okay? So, for example, I took piano lessons when I was younger, and I took it for about 10 years, but I didn't really work hard at it, okay? I did as little practicing as possible. And sometimes I think, you know what? I kind of wish I had stuck to those lessons and worked harder, because now I'd have that accomplishment. I'd be able to play the piano better, okay? We all have probably those moments in our lives, okay? Maybe we want to think about, why do we admire this virtue in others? So perhaps in this essay, you don't have to, but if you want to think about people who you've seen persevere. And I would say, if you're going to pick that third bullet point about people, or third and fourth one, about particular examples from others' lives, whether they're fictional or historical, I'd make them specific, because sometimes people get very broad and they'll say things like, doctors have to persevere through med school. Med school is really hard. If they persevere, then they get to be a good doctor. Well, that is true. Okay, getting through medical school, law school, dental school, whatever, those are difficulties. Okay, but maybe pick somebody specific, okay, a particular soldier or doctor, maybe somebody who has a lot of obstacles in their life and they've conquered them, and be specific instead of kind of giving what I would call a general specific. Give something specific, okay? The more you can do that, the better. And once again, they can be fictional, okay, like we see in some of the readings. They can be historical examples. They can be personal examples. Okay? So if you want to pick 3 areas of your life for this essay where you had to persevere and how it's helped you grow, you could do that and make, 3 body paragraphs if you like. If you just want to do one and then move on, like some people might choose to do, you can do that. Okay, so let's move on to our next slide. If some of you want to pick like one area where you've persevered personally and then make that the personal element of your essay, you could. And then if you want to talk about perseverance in society. So why is perseverance a vital aspect of a functioning society or community? Okay, so you might want to think about that. We, as a society, as a community, we rely on people who will persevere when things are tough to get the job done. Okay, so it could be anything. You could think about, we have like electrical outages, okay, in the middle of a storm, winter, summer, whatever it is. And that's frustrating for us when we don't have electricity. Someone's got to get up there and go, we have to figure out where the lines are down, despite the bad weather, despite the situation, and we have to make sure it gets put back on, okay? Society benefits because a relatively few amount of people have persevered. Could be for anything. Okay, it could be for inventions that we have, that our world is better off because somebody persevered in creating that invention or making that product or element better, whatever it is. Okay, it could even be electricity. Okay, how is society or community improved when more people have that virtue of perseverance? So maybe if you want, you don't have to, but if you want to give examples of how 1 or 2 people's perseverance has ultimately led to a much better society for everybody. Okay, could be the invention of, like I said, electricity, could be the invention of the car, the airplane, the microcomputer, cell phones, whatever. It maybe give specific examples and say, because of that person or group of people saying, we are going to solve this problem, now all of us benefit from it. Could be, new medicines, could be greater efficiencies in food growing. Okay, so how do we encourage perseverance in our communities? Okay, so I'm going to talk about that. You don't have to talk about this. If you're good with just talking about personal examples, that's fine. But if you want to go a little bit broader, you certainly can. Okay? Finally, think about living in a democratic republic like we've been doing for these essays. How and why is perseverance such an important virtue? Okay? So part of being a good citizen in our community, in our republic, is having that element of perseverance. So it could be on a lot of different levels. I don't want to limit them, but for example, think about hard times in our country's past, whether it was World War II or the Great Depression or the Civil War, okay? Difficulties, people, countries had to persevere, get through the hard times, and because of that, our lives are better, okay? You could even go back to something as recent as the COVID shutdowns, and when there was a kind of a national crisis, okay? And people had to learn to persevere, whether they were people in the medical communities, whether it was individual citizens, whether it was people who still said, I still have to go out and do my job, even though there's this issue out there, I have to do that. It actually kind of makes us feel better about our country, not just because it's my job, but also like, this will make our country better. We also probably admire, I hope, people who have perseverance for positive things. And that actually probably has a good effect on our view of democracy. If we look at a lot of people in the world and we go like, they work hard, they try and solve the problems. If we see a lot of those examples, we're more likely to go, you know what? People are pretty good. People can be pretty good. There are bad people in the world, but there are a lot of people who work hard, even though they're affecting me in a good way, even if they don't even know me. Okay? So you might want to think about that. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's something to think about, okay? And so then we have the issue of structure. So just like the first essay, I would recommend having a good solid opening paragraph, a good concluding paragraph to do all the things we talk about at the beginning of the essay. I would probably say for most people, you're going to have 3 body paragraphs on 3 different aspects or elements of perseverance, whether they're 3 examples from your life or an example from your life or the way it's affected communities or our broader country, okay? It's up to you, all right? If you're going to obviously use any dictionary definitions, any of the stories we have, maybe some historical examples that you find online, You do need in-text citations and references, and a works cited page, of course. Okay, hopefully that gives you some good ideas about this second essay and the issue of perseverance. Best of luck.